And the province is not on track to meet goals with the $10 a day childcare initiative. This is according to the Auditor General, but that is not the only deficiency. We have more of Shelley Spence's findings this hour and reaction.
Beluga whales stuck in Marineland cannot go to China. We have the latest decision from the federal government, and what's next?
At the National Day of Protest for thousands of striking Canada Post workers, we're going to tell you about the demonstration in Toronto.
And some fun in the sun before this weekend's ALDS contest. We'll take you to the Rogers Center for the Jays inter-squad action.
This is Live at 5.
Good evening. I'm Phil Perkins.
I'm Bakari Savage. Welcome to Live at 5. So the Jays played the first of two inter-squad games this afternoon as they wait to find out who their opponent is going to be in the ALDS.
That's what Live now. CP24's Andrew Brennan at the Rogers Center. It's a great opportunity for people to get real close to their favorite players for not that much money.
Now we're going to talk to a kid, and I normally don't think that kids care about $10 or how much things cost, but are you pretty happy to get this close?
Yeah.
What's your name, my dude?
Nash.
Nash? Okay, who's your favorite player?
Slider.
That's a good pick. So tell me, what makes this Blue Jays team so fun to watch?
Like getting like the balls and stuff.
So you're able to get a decent amount of foul balls here. Have you been chasing after some balls?
Yeah.
The last thing I want to ask you is, can you put on your outdoor voice and then yell, "Let's go Blue Jays"? Okay, we're gonna just hold on. You stay right there for a second. We're gonna do one practice, you and me, okay? Let's go Blue Jays. Let's go Blue Jays. Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Let's go Blue Jays.
Great job. Very nice meeting you. You have a great day. Thank you very much. I hope you have a great day, Mom. So as you can see, we're having fun at the ballpark, and for $10, again, $10 to get in, and you can sit anywhere. You know those plush seats behind home plate, Phil? I know you know what I'm talking about. The ones that used to be very not too expensive for season tickets and became exorbitantly expensive for season tickets and a little bit plushier. Well, I saw people darting from gate 11 down there because for $10, they were able to get right behind home plate. You know that seat where the lady who never blinks when she gets hit by the foul ball goes right in front of her? Someone took her seat and it only cost him $10. So right now, this is a bit of a game for funsies. The point here is to keep everyone relaxed, but also sharp ahead of the ALDS, which will begin on Saturday. We don't know who we're facing yet. We do know what times the games will be. If it's Boston, it'll be a 1 o'clock start for game 1 and then 4 after that for the weekend. If it's New York, 4 o'clock, 4:08, the entire way through. They're throwing t-shirts through a t-shirt cannon and I'm stuck up here. That's not fair. Okay, so we're not going to get t-shirts, but we did get to see the Blue Jays up close. For them paying $10, we got a media pass. But it's been a good day, and the hope is, from a lot of the fans we've spoken to, is that Saturday will be the beginning of something joyous, and dare we say, awesome. And speaking of awesome, you two are awesome. Sending it back to you inside.
Live from the Rogers Center, CP24's Andrew Brennan. Well, a multi-vehicle crash, it's tying up the afternoon drive on the 403 in Mississauga.
Yeah, CP24 was over the chain reaction crash in the westbound lanes of the 403 at Mavis Road. It happened around 4 o'clock. One vehicle ended up wedged under another one. The OPP say no injuries are reported, but 2 lanes still blocked. For more on this and probably other crashes that are happening as we speak, here's traffic specialist Adrian Yabra. Never good when you laugh before you talk.
You know, no, I'm not laughing at the collision. I'm actually just laughing at your pun. If you're making it right, yes, there are problems, and we still are dealing with the problems that started it all. The chain reaction crash on the westbound 403 west of Mavis, HOV and left lane blocked at this collision. But now we have problems on the exact same spot if you're headed on the eastbound side. 2 right lanes blocked. It was drivers slowing to take a look. So this is the situation that resulted on the eastbound side. So a bit of a nightmare go for commuters heading into and out of Mississauga. Very, very slow going this hour. Also some problems. This is on the eastbound lanes of the 401 on the approach to Victoria Park. Just a stalled vehicle blocking the right lane of those collectors. And we had problems. They were happening on the northbound 400 actually through Finch. 2 right lanes are blocked with pretty serious collision situation circulation cleared. Still have a couple of problems that I can't see. Southbound 410 through Beauvert. Crews dealing with a collision that does have the right lane blocked. And on city streets, we are still dealing with this collision involving a cyclist. So you will find Parliament blocked both ways at Gerrard. I'll send it back to you.
This CP24 traffic report is brought to you by 407 ETR. Enjoy the journey with a stress-free commute.
Ontario's Auditor General released reports on 4 audits into major government policies, including $10 a day childcare.
And Shelley Spence says the province is not on track to meet its target on childcare fees. A number of spaces or percentage of qualified staff within the $10 a day system. The fees are currently capped at $22 a day. That's down from an average of $48 a day before the program began. Low-income families can get further fee subsidies on a sliding scale, but compared to 2019, there has been a 31% decrease in the enrollment of children receiving fee subsidies. Wait lists are also growing.
Many families in our audit found that the Ministry of Education has not yet achieved its commitment in the agreement that are required by 2026. Now, one of the commitments is to create 86,000 new spaces by the end of 2026. We found that by December 2024, the province had created about 75% of its $48,000 target, or 36,000 new spaces. The program has also reduced childcare costs, currently by about 50%. This has caused the demand for childcare spaces to increase threefold. This has made it more difficult for families to find childcare spaces, including those on fee subsidies.
All right, CP24's CJ Liu has been following reaction to the Auditor General's report and joins us live from Queen's Park. CJ.
You heard some of the issues presented there by the Auditor General when it comes to daycare, from lack of spaces to early childhood educator shortage. But a big issue has to do with funding. The Auditor General today said they have a $2 billion budget shortfall when it comes to fulfilling the $10 a day childcare. And earlier today, the Education Minister, Paul Calandra, was in person here at Queen's Park answering some of those questions people had in response to this report. And he said point blank, quite frankly, that Ontario would not be in a position to meet the $10 a day childcare promise unless the federal government steps up to the plate and provides more money. Now, the feds, they did provide 5 years of funding, but the report found Ontario used that 5-year funding up in 4 years. Well, Paul Calandra, he said it's because Ontario has higher costs of operation compared to other provinces. For example, it's more expensive for rent here compared to places like Manitoba and Saskatchewan. And he also mentioned that negotiations with the federal government have not started yet when it comes to anything about the funding. He points out that they're quite busy right now with this upcoming November budget. However, according to this new report, if they cannot figure out the funding issue here, the $10 a day childcare will not be met and parents may have to put more fees. The report found that parents, if they were to foot the bill, they would have to pay up to $32 a day on average come April 1st, which is much more than that $10 a day promise. But here's more from Minister Calandra today.
I think some of the problems that we're facing with CWELCC is the rigidity of the program. There are spaces that are not being used because the federal government insists that it is used through the not-for-profit sector. Well, our system was based and built on both not-for-profit and for-profit. And when one entire sector or section of childcare is forbidden from participating in the system, then you're seeing some of the challenges that we're facing right now. So that is something that we hope to talk to the federal government about. And I'm confident we'll make some progress on that.
And the report also found that a generalized website for parents to search for spaces won't be up until 2029. Minister Calandra says he's not comfortable with that year and is directing his staff to move on that quicker. We also got some more reaction today from Ontario NDP leader Marit Stiles. Here's what she had to say in response to the report.
We're seeing from this report already a massive shortfall in childcare spaces, no tracking of need, no tracking of metrics of the success of the program. Some have said they felt like the government was almost setting this up for failure. I won't go that far. to speculate whether they were setting this up for failure, but I do think it's unfortunate that we once again have a government that won't go the whole way. They won't take that extra step, and they won't pay their fair share.
The report did provide 11 recommendations, and Minister Calandra says his office has received those recommendations, and he's going to take some time to look them over. And Bakari, Phil, in the next half hour, I'll be speaking to some childcare experts and get their reaction to today's report.
Okay, live from Queen's Park, CP24, Cija Liu. Also at Queen's Park, the Auditor General found that Labor Minister David Piccini's office was heavily involved in the projects that received money under the $2.5 billion skills training program.
Yeah, she found that more than half of the money was given to applicants who were ranked poor, low, or medium by bureaucrats, and his office didn't explain why. The report also found many successful applicants who were lower ranked had hired registered lobbyists.
And Piccini was asked about the Auditor General's claim that groups with lobbyists were favored when it came to distributing funding.
I think there's something this government's shown is the most accessible government in Ontario's history, and that's without question. So that's a yes? When it comes to the support, the Auditor General did highlight that whether it's programs in the arts, whether it's other programs, there's been support with grant programs all across a number of ministries, and we make sure that the programs that come forward have the ability to change lives and change lives for the better.
Well, Liberal House Leader John Fraser says the Auditor General's findings and the Skills Development Fund reminds him of the Greenbelt scandal.
It's the usual suspects, right? The wealthy, well-connected insiders, the lobbyists, the people with connections to Doug Ford, donors. Same thing. No different. And so I know how this story is going to end. We've seen this story played before in the Greenbelt. The deeper we dig, the more we're going to find out. And a minister, somebody will have to take responsibility. It's not going to be the premier. This story is just beginning.
And more details on the latest Auditor General reports can be found on our website, CP24.com.
Well, the federal government is turning down Marineland's request to send the last whales to captivity in Canada to a theme park in China.
Let's go live to CP24's Beatrice Vaisman. Beatrice.
Bakari, Phil, this is the latest chapter in the saga with Marineland. The park has been closed to visitors since 2024, and this was a move by the theme park to move the final whales in captivity in this country, 30 belugas, over to an aquarium in China. Well, Marineland putting out a statement late this afternoon saying it is profoundly disappointed by the federal government's decision to deny its request to ship these 30 belugas to China. The federal fisheries minister saying this afternoon the federal government could not grant the export permit to ship these whales to that aquarium because she doesn't want to subject the belugas to a future performing in captivity. Marineland, meantime, saying the federal government has killed the tourist attraction's only viable option to move the whales, as no sanctuary exists at this point to take them. Certainly there is some conversation to send them to a sanctuary in Atlantic Canada. The problem is that sanctuary is not ready at this point yet. And so this was, in Marineland's view, the only option for these whales. The Premier today, speaking out at Queen's Park, saying that he felt disappointed by the federal government's decision, saying that he wanted these whales to be moved. He wants them to have a future where they flourish, not in a small tank, but in a larger area where they can live. And so we're also hearing from animal activists who are saying that they don't want the belugas to be moved to an aquarium. They want them to go to that sanctuary. And the World Animal Protection activist who we spoke to is hoping that the Premier can actually start putting pressure to move that sanctuary on our East Coast along to make sure that these whales do survive. And so here's a bit of reaction that we're hearing this afternoon.
I'm really encouraging the federal government to allow us to make sure that these whales survive in a really great atmosphere or a new home. But it's terrible. And you put 30 whales in an acre. Like, give me a break. Like, they need to do a better job down at Marineland. But at the end of the day, if we want these whales to survive, we have to move them somewhere.
We applaud Canada's federal fisheries minister, Joanne Thompson, did the right thing for the whales, and we applaud this decision. We applaud her communications on this about why she did it. This upholds the spirit of our 2019 law banning the keeping of these animals for entertainment. Clearly, sending these animals to China would have perpetuated the problem which that law tried to stop. They would have been used for breeding. They would have been used for entertainment shows. So it's great that the whales were prioritized today.
And so since 2019, so within the last 6 years, 20 whales, one killer whale, 19 belugas have died at Marineland. Certainly that has drawn the ire of activists and people all across the province and the country. But Marineland saying that by the federal government's decision today to deny the export, it's essentially cut off all of its prospects, and it's now concerned about the future feeding and care of these animals. Back to you guys.
Beatrice, thank you very much. We appreciate that. It is 5:15, 16 outside. You're watching Live at 5.
And coming up, we're going to take a look at what police are doing to deal with auto theft in York Region. All right, so we're following developing news. This is out of Quebec, where one person's dead, 2 others are wounded. This is following a shooting, and officials believe that this is connected to organized crime.
Yeah, shots were fired at a Starbucks in Laval around 10:30 this morning. Quebec Provincial Police say a man in his 40s was killed. The province's public security minister says all indications are pointing to the shooting being tied to organized crime and that a major police operation is underway. No arrests have been made yet, but police say there is no longer a security risk in the area.
Okay, so back here, York police are launching Operation Auto Guard. It's their annual campaign to fight auto theft in the region.
Yeah, for a closer look on this, let's speak with CP24 crime analyst Steve Ryan. So how's this all going to work out? Is this any different than previous blitzes?
Well, this is the 3rd year that Operation Auto Guard, so this is Operation Auto Guard 3.0. It started in 2023, and it's got an enforcement component, community engagement component, and an education component as well. So it's proactive. And I've been saying all day that typically when a young officer comes out of Elmer, you want to help people. But what you learn very quickly is that most policing is reactive. You're called after the deed is done, after the property is taken. Proactive policing is very effective when you've got the community's buy-in, as York Region currently does, and apparently does. The numbers speak for themselves. 2023, 66 arrests, 80 vehicles recovered. 2024, 17 arrests, 15 vehicles recovered. And in 2025, there's been a 34% decrease. So this is obviously working. It's a small sample size, of course, but at least the numbers are going in the right direction when it comes to community safety.
Okay, so you were able to talk to police today about this. What was most interesting to you?
The numbers. The numbers stood out to me. It's always a positive thing in the world of policing when you can say that what we are doing is having a positive effect. When the numbers come down, the numbers clearly don't lie. And the education component and the community interaction is very important when it comes to proactive policing. Let's hear from Constable Dixon, who I did speak with earlier on. What he said.
In the first Auto Guard, which I was very pleased to be taking part in, we ended up getting more than $5 million of vehicles back. We're talking about more than 50 people that are arrested and hundreds of charges being laid. I believe it was more than 300 different offenses that we related to the first one. Taking it from that and moving through into the second year, we are also very pleased to see success targeting these large-scale exporters where we're charging not as many people, but arguably more important people in the industry.
All right, Steve, it's good to know because auto theft, super annoying.
Real quick, what the constable said there about more important people, he's referring to the heads of the snakes, if you will, when it comes to organized crime. There's big money in auto theft. It's not just joyriding by kids. What happens, though, is that organized crime often, according to the police, recruit young people who go out and they are the foot soldiers. They do the dirty work, and then the young kids get money. Their reward, their pay is certainly higher, outweighs the risk of being caught. That's the dilemma we're having right now.
And then we could talk about Youth Criminal Justice Act and all that stuff later. It's a complicated web, and we're glad you're on our side to break it all down.
You got it.
Steve Ryan, our crime analyst, thanks so much. Appreciate it. It is 5:20 right now, 16 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
Up next, the province's minimum wage. It increased today, but some experts say it's not enough to keep up with the cost of living.
Welcome back. The province's minimum wage increased today.
Yeah, the rate jumped 40 cents to $17.60 per hour. The Ministry of Labor says that the increase is part of the government's plan to help families keep pace with the cost of living. But many experts say that it's not enough to sustain the cost of daily living in large urban centers like Toronto. Stats Canada says an estimated 503,000 Ontarians, they earn the minimum wage in August, representing 7% of the 7.1 million employees in the province.
As people feel the pinch, the cost of living has increased. This is part of his populist response to that. So, you watch a guy who once opposed the minimum wage increase, now is embracing it and delivering it in a guise of saying, hey, I am there for you, working folk. It's really been a fascinating political shift to watch.
And also today, jurors in Ontario who don't get paid by their employers for jury duty will now be compensated from the first day of service. They'll be paid $120 a day. Under the previous jury pay structure, jurors were paid nothing for the first 10 days of a trial. They were then paid $40 a day from day 11 to 49 and $100 a day from 50 onwards.
Well, the City of Toronto is celebrating the opening of a new mixed-income community in Leslieville.
Don Somerville on Eastern Avenue has 770 homes in 3 buildings. The site was previously home to 2 60-unit Toronto Community Housing Corporation buildings. The city partnered with TCHC and private developers to revitalize the area and build a mixed-use housing development for residents of all income levels.
We have the private sector, you have real hand and contacts coming in to build condominiums, but also rental housing. It helps them build more homes. It also provides some funding for the city to, or TCHC, to repair and rebuild the new buildings. So from a very old, sad, 2 little buildings, 180 homes to now 800 homes, and a good percentage of them affordable. So it's a win-win for both the city and the private sector as we cooperate and work together.
Here's how it breaks down. Don Somerville has 120 rent-geared to income homes, 100 affordable rental homes, 183 market rental homes, and 367 condos.
It's 525, 16 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
And coming up next, the Maple Leafs, they brought training camp to Cottage Country today. All right, the Maple Leafs took training camp to Cottage Country today.
Pretty relaxing. The Leafs taking to the ice at the Muskoka Lumber Community Center in Bracebridge. Hundreds of kids from across Muskoka filled the seats to watch the team practice. Very close, except that person. They don't care.
It's just really fun. I love the Leafs, the favorite hockey team. Just glad to be here today.
What they normally
so
do.
close to them, like seeing what they do when they're not like in actual games.
That I got to see them up close and sit really close to them.
They have like such a hard shot, and I'm pretty happy to get the opportunity to hang out with them or see them.
And for a 5th straight year, the Toronto Maple Leafs, they are the NHL's most valuable franchise. That's according to Sportico. That's a digital company which specializes in the business end of the sports world. Sportico claims that the Leafs are worth $4.25 billion. That's a 16% jump in value over last year. They peg the average value of an NHL team at $2.1 billion. So after the Leafs, Sportico has the New York Rangers coming in second on the Leafs. Montreal rounds out the top 3.
Now imagine if they actually won a Stanley Cup, what they'd be worth. Ridiculous.
Don't be petty.
I'm not being petty. I'm
Don't
just
be
saying
petty.
that's when you're out in the second round. Imagine you actually went to the Stanley. That's like
You
$7
just made
billion.
Pete laugh.
Good. $7 billion. That's what I'm saying. Lucky number 7. All right. It's 529, 16 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
Ontario's Auditor General says that the province is not on track to meet its targets on childcare fees, number of spaces created, or percentage of qualified staff within the $10 a day system. Those details and reaction coming up.
The province not on track to meet goals with the $10 a day childcare initiative. This, according to the Auditor General. But that's not the only deficiency. We have more on Shelley Spence's findings.
Well, beluga whales stuck at Marineland cannot go to China. We have the latest decision from the federal government, and what's next?
And a national day of protest for thousands of striking Canada Post workers. We'll tell you about the demonstration in Toronto.
And fun in the sun before this weekend's ALDS contest. We're going to take you to the Rogers Center for the Jays intra-squad action.
This is Live at 5.
Good evening. I'm Bakari Savage.
And I'm Phil Perkins. You're watching Live at 5. Our top story, Ontario's Auditor General released reports on 4 audits into major government policies, including $10 a day childcare.
Yeah, Shelley Spence says that the province is not on track to meet its targets on childcare fees, number of spaces, or percentage of qualified staff within the $10 a day system. So fees are currently capped at $22 a day. That's down from an average of $48 a day before the program began. Low-income families can get further subsidies on a sliding scale, but compared to 2019, there's been a 31% decrease in the enrollment of children receiving fee subsidies. Wait lists are also growing.
We found that childcare enrollment decreased by 31% for families eligible for fee subsidies compared to 2019. Providing childcare for underserved and vulnerable populations is a way to support families so that they can participate in the labor market and or improve their education and overall social economic status. Next, we noted the ministry's performance framework could be improved. For example, better tracking of demand and wait lists would help support childcare access for vulnerable and underserved populations.
Ontario provides full-day kindergarten. That's not the case in many provinces. We start funding. Kids can go to full-day kindergarten at 3 years of age. But by and large, look, Ontario is just a more costly place, right? Daycare operators in Toronto pay higher rents throughout the GTA, not just Toronto. There are higher rents. Staff are paid more. It is just a more expensive jurisdiction to operate out of than Saskatchewan, Manitoba, or any other province.
Let's go live to Queen's Park. This is where CP24 CWELCC continues our coverage of reaction to the Auditor General's report. CJ.
Bakari, Phil, you just heard a number of issues why Ontario is falling behind when it comes to its province on $10 a day childcare. And here to give us some more insights, let's bring in Carolyn Ferns. She is the policy coordinator for the Ontario Coalition for Better Childcare. Carolyn, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Now, we heard this report from the Auditor General. She brought up a number of issues, from staffing shortages to funding shortfalls. Did anything from her report surprise you?
You know what? I think a lot of the findings in the report, they certainly gel, they align with what we've been hearing in the sector and in our community. What I really liked, I guess, maybe the one piece of good news first, is that the report sort of takes as a given that what we should be doing is continuing to strengthen and expand this system, that it is starting to transform for the better Ontario's childcare system, but it provides serious analysis of what those gaps are, and I think that that's really helpful, and I hope the Ontario government takes it seriously.
And one of those gaps it talked about is a funding shortfall. Right now, short $2 billion. We heard from Education Minister Paul Calandra, and he put it like this: if the feds can't give us more money, $10 a day childcare most likely won't be able to happen as promised. What do you make of his comments?
Well, I heard the minister's comments, and the first thing that struck me, and maybe this is a surprise for families and the community, is that the federal government and the provincial government aren't actively negotiating right now. So that has to start right away, because the agreement expires in March. The clock is ticking. We need this agreement to be signed right away. And then the issue of the shortfall, I think that's it's good to talk about what this program costs. It's also good to acknowledge what the province has gained from this program, because we know that it's been a support for families, yes, but that means that more parents are in the workforce. It means economic benefits and benefits to revenue that the province has gained. So I hope that both the federal and provincial government are willing to come to the table and offer more funding to make sure this program works. That's certainly what it seems the Auditor General is urging, right? That we make this program work, we strengthen and expand it. That's what families want, that's what the community wants to do. But right now, we're operating under a cloud of not having an agreement signed. And so that's something we need to happen right away. On the funding shortfall and who pays what, I mean, the Auditor General's report lays out that, you know, in 25-26, the federal government was funding $2.9 billion to Ontario's $100 million into the CWELCC system. So $3 from the feds for every dime that Ontario spends. I think Ontario can afford to do better than that.
Now, when it comes to this report as well, they gave 11 recommendations to the Minister of Education. Besides signing that renewal agreement, the 5-year renewal agreement in the spring coming up here, what else would you like them to do immediately?
Oh, I think that one of the main things they need to take away from this report is that we've actually fallen behind on solving the childcare workforce crisis. This report says that, we're now 10,000 registered early childhood educators short of what we need to staff just what Ontario is committed to in terms of spaces. So a 10,000, RECE shortfall, it's clear that what Ontario's done so far in their workforce strategy is not enough. We need to have a boost in wages. We need to have now what 8 other provinces and territories have, which is a wage grid for registered early childhood educators, and things like benefits and pension plans, which we know other provinces, again, already have underway. So I think that's something Ontario needs to take away right away. I make that one point in response to Minister Calandra's comment that Ontario is more expensive because ECEs make more here. And that's simply not true. In fact, RECEs in Prince Edward Island make about $4 or $5 more to start per hour than we do here in Ontario. So Ontario can afford to do a lot better when it comes to the workforce, and they need to, because it's early childhood educators who make our programs work, right? They are what build quality programs, what build access for families, what makes this program happen.
Absolutely. Well, Carolyn Ferns with the Ontario Coalition for Better Childcare, thanks so much for your time today and your expertise.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now, with this report, they also provided 11 recommendations to the minister's office, and Phil Bakari, Minister Calandra, says he's going to be looking over those and processing it all over the coming weeks.
All right, CJ Lou live inside Queen's Park. We appreciate it. Well, the Auditor General, speaking of, continuing the coverage here, found that Labour Minister David Piccini's office heavily involved in the projects that received money under the $2.5 billion skills training program.
Yeah, she found that more than half of the money was given to applicants who were ranked poor, low, or medium by bureaucrats, and his office didn't explain why. The report also found many successful applicants who were lower ranked had hired registered lobbyists. And Piccini is now defending how the funds were distributed, despite the Auditor General saying that the process wasn't fair or transparent.
People are gaining jobs because of the Skills Development Fund. Over 100,000 Ontarians, as I said, have now joined the ranks of those employed thanks to the Skills Development Fund within 60 days of training. And look, when you see President Trump and the tariffs that acutely affects a certain number of industries, we need to have the ability to support rapid training in every corner of the province. And that's what a Skills Development Fund has done.
House Secretary John Fraser says the Auditor General's findings of the Skills Development Fund reminds him of the Greenbelt scandal.
Forget all this stuff that's insider baseball, wealthy, well-connected people. More than half of this fund went to very low-rated, questionable return on investment projects. That's just bad management. That's just, so if you couple with that it looks like a racket, like we got to get to the bottom of it. And it's not going to happen next week, but it will happen. I've seen it before. I've seen it happen before with this government. I've seen it happen with governments across Canada. I'm old, so you can remember these things, but when you get the whiff of something, you know what's going on.
The audit found that the Home Construction Regulatory Authority systems, processes, and policies to license and regulate new home builders and vendors were not consistently effective in protecting consumers. HCRA's review of a licensee's past conduct and financial position was limited when approving license applications, and it didn't always take the steps to verify the information on an applicant submitted. Spence found HCRA's oversight and enforcement processes were not proactive or risk-based and were not focused on prevention.
And more details on the latest Auditor General report could be found on our website, CP24.com.
Well, a cyclist has been taken to hospital after colliding with a vehicle downtown.
Toronto police say it happened near Parliament and Gerrard around 3:30 in the afternoon. Cyclists in their 30s taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. This footage from CP24. The vehicle stayed on scene. The investigation is underway.
Okay, it is 5:42. Let's get a check on the roads at CP24's traffic specialist, Adjoa and Bois. Adj, any other problem areas?
You know, it's still a few, but, I do have some fantastic news, Bakari. We had problems on the westbound lanes of the 403 west of Mavis. Crews were dealing with a pretty serious collision. It was a chain reaction crash happened earlier this afternoon. HOV and left lane were blocked, problem cleared. Now, problems on the eastbound side now all off to the shoulder. It was another collision that was in the two right lanes, but at least that's open. Still creating a visual delay for commuters heading on the eastbound side. And then once you get onto the 401, if you're traveling eastbound, just in the express through Kiel, had a collision. It was in the center lane. It might have just cleared away. Hard to tell because these trucks are in the way. No, that collision is still there, still blocking the center lane. Further east on the 401, we had problems on the approach to Victoria Park. Was a stall that was in the right lane. And if you're headed towards the northbound lanes of the 427, pretty busy off the Gardner, continues slow to just north of Burnhamthorpe. My camera went out, but northbound on the 427 on the approach to Burnhamthorpe, we were dealing with a collision in the collectors that also cleared. I'll send it back to you.
All right, Adjoa, thank you very much. Appreciate the update. Well, York police are now investigating after shots were fired in a residential area in Markham.
Okay, here's a live look from Chopper 24, which is over the scene. This is in the area of Highway 7 and 9th Line. So you can see police responded. They're still on the ground right there. There's a cruiser. As you can see, the camera is zooming out right there to give you a wider shot. So police got there right around 4:30. That was this afternoon. No injuries have been reported. There's no suspect information. Police say that they're going to have an increased presence in the area as evidence is gathered.
It's 5:43, 16 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
And coming up, striking Canada Post workers. They held a rally outside of a Toronto MP's office on Queen Street today.
Welcome back. Striking Canada Post workers are holding a national day of action today to protest the government's proposed changes to the money-losing Crown Corporation.
Okay, let's go live to CP24's Arda Zakarian. Arda, you've been covering this all day. You've been speaking to some of those demonstrating as well as getting statements as well from the Crown, right?
That's right. So as you were saying, losing money to the tune of $1.3 billion. And that's just last year. So they're set to lose a similar amount for this year as well. So the workers that I spoke to understood that there needs to be changes that are going to be made to the system, but not at the expense of their jobs. So that's what they're fighting for. They're fighting for their jobs here. And the postal workers have been on strike for almost a week now. And there is no end in sight right now. Last year, as I said, loss of $1.3 billion. And the major issue is that Canada Post wants to get rid of door-to-door mail delivery and instead have community mailboxes. The other part is that they want to get rid of rural post offices. Here's more from Mark Lubinsky, who is the president of CUPW Toronto Local and a postal worker.
We want a contract. We want to go back to work. Unfortunately, Canada Post wants to continue on with losses. It's been over 37 days, and they still haven't given us a counter offer. But they will go to the government and say they're losing all this money. They're making these losses. They're creating them. They want losses. And what they wanted, government gave them.
In no way, shape, or form we want to affect Canadians. We want to service the public. So we're hoping that it never get to that and that they will come back to the table. So, instead of standing on the picket line, we're talking to the community, let them know why we're here, asking them for support. We're, knocking on MP's door and says, hey, send the management back to the table so we can negotiate in good faith.
The CEO of Canada Post has written a letter to Canadians that reads in part, while our labor situation is extremely challenging, we also remain committed to reaching new agreements at the bargaining table. It's vital these agreements reflect our financial reality and support the changes we need to make while helping us stand on our own without taxpayer funding. And in light of the changes that were announced by the Government of Canada last week, Canada Post now has 45 days to present a plan on how to move the postal system forward. But as of right now, if you asked, when is this strike going to come to an end? Neither side is at the bargaining table, so there's no end in sight right now. Back to you.
Okay, live from the newsroom, CP24's Arda Zakarian. It's 5:48, 16 degrees. This is Live at 5.
Jane Goodall has died. We'll take a look at her life and legacy coming up. Welcome back to Live at 5. Wildlife advocate Jane Goodall has died.
Well, my next great adventure, age 90, is going to be dying. There's either nothing or something. And if there's something, I mean, if there's nothing, and that's it. If there's something, I can't think of a greater adventure than finding out what it is.
The renowned scientist and global activist turned her childhood love of primates into a lifelong quest for protecting the environment. Goodall was most known for her groundbreaking studies involving chimpanzees.
And for more on the life and legacy, we're joined live by Bella Lamb, Chief Executive Officer of the Jane Goodall Institute Canada. Bella, thank you for taking time to speak with us, and we'd also like to offer sincerest condolences. What is the first thing you'd like to share with us?
Thank you, Bakari and Phil. I'm not sure if you can tell, but I'm actually on a train right now from Jane's birthplace in the UK. I'm actually on, after I heard the news, I'm on the book myself on the first flight back to Toronto. So I think the first thing that just want to share that so many people, myself including, are dealing with the news and the loss, but also remembering Jane's legacy, remembering her message of hope.
Next session for the service is Sandra Dudley. If you're living as a Sandra Dudley, please do ensure you take all your personal belongings with you.
Okay. We hear, I guess, well, their sound system seems to be pretty good on their tubes compared to the TTC. They're trying to give an announcement there on where she was off to. But if you're still there, you can continue about her legacy before the PA system went off.
Yes, sorry about that. Like I said, I'm on a train right now.
That's okay.
So I think Jane's legacy, while she was with us, she was very clear that every individual makes a difference. And I think that is the hope, that the enduring hope that she gives us, even as she has passed on, that we must then now pick up the torch and carry on her work, which is ensuring that we all live in harmony with nature, that we can do our part to ensure that animals, people, and the environment can all thrive together. She was very clear about her message, and her message for young people to not give up hope, to do something in their own communities to make a difference. And the Jane Goodall Institute is carrying on that legacy. And I think that's a very important message for all of us who are grieving her loss right now, but also remembering the really critical mission that she's put before us, and that we don't give up, that we continue on.
And, Bella, part of that message starts with, there's an interview with Ms. Goodall saying that she fell in love with Tarzan. And then, looking at chimpanzees, studying them, she said we should recognize their compassion, also their show of violence and kind of primitive warfare. Let's talk about how all that comes together.
I think for Jane, she always, she sees the complexity of our ecosystem. She sees the complexity of the chimpanzees she dearly studied, and the complexity of human. But amongst that complexity, she understands that we have the tools. We have the tools as much as the crisis of climate change, the crisis of that we see ourselves today in our environment, that is made by humans, but we also have the solutions. So I think that is for us to unpack, that despite the challenges that we face today, in terms of having sustainable livelihood, in terms of dealing with climate change, that there are solutions. That there are solutions if we all pull together. That another way of doing things is possible to ensure that this one planet we all call home can continue to thrive.
Let's hope. All right, that's Bella Lamb, Chief Executive Officer of the Jane Goodall Institute Canada, on the tube right now, speaking to us on our way back to Toronto after the passing of Jane Goodall at the age of 91. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's 5:56, 16 degrees. This is Live at 5.
Coming up next, Jays played their first of 2 inter-squad games. They won it all, and they got to stay warm. Thus, the inter-squad games as they gear up for the American League Division Series. The dome's open. It was $10 to get in. We'll see how everyone liked it.